Greetings, and in this short video presentation we're going to cover connectivity between virtual machines in both VirtualBox and in VMware. We're going to begin by talking about some basic networking fundamentals. First off, with Kali and Windows XP, for either one to see the other, they have to be on the same network. Now, when we talk about networking, we're talking about IP addressing. IP addressing, in this case, happens to be centered around the network. So the network portion of an IP address will always be the first 3 octets. All right, so we're talking here 192.168.145 for a Class C network. This is the network portion for the address for this machine. The host IP is 177. And if you look over here at the Windows XP, you'll see that its IP address is the same network, 192.168.145. It has a host IP that's going to be different of 133. But they are both on the same network. That is to say, they are on the 192.168.145 network. So we look at these network as being the cornerstone or the rock foundation of how these devices are going to communicate. Without it, there's nothing. So when you say that the session failed or the session could not be established or whatever the reason may be, or whatever the error might be, it has nothing to do with anything except networking. If we can't ping these machines, that is to say, if I can't ping from Kali to XP and from XP to Kali, then there is no connectivity. So if I ping and I get a response, that means those devices are talking to each other. There I have connectivity. Now you won't get that if these two devices do not share the same network. They cannot share the same host IP, but they have to share the same network. Okay. Now, the problem that people have with these virtual machines is their host machine. It all comes down to whether or not VMware or VirtualBox can actually virtualize their hardware. Now, when it comes to industry standards, that's Microsoft. Microsoft works with all kinds of different industries as far as networking adapters, hard drives, motherboards, CPUs, the BIOS. That's all based on industry standard, and Microsoft is designed to work with all these different manufacturers because they all use the same standard. Now, when you get to a different manufacturer, such as Apple, they're proprietary. And this is where we run into problems, because Macs and Apples don't have an open source or a industry standard set of hardware configurations to deal with. So when we look at an Apple, we have something that only Apple is going to have, and that is the AeroNet adapter. You won't find this adapter anywhere else. AeroNet, it belongs to a Mac or an Apple, but unfortunately Windows XP does not know how to virtualize that, and neither does VMware or anything else, because it is proprietary. Alright, so when we get up here on VirtualBox and we look at the settings and we go into the network here, this is like on a Mac. We have to use a different adapter. Now, the most common adapter that you can find up inside of VirtualBox is going to be the PCNet-Fast3. This is the most common. It is the oldest. The drivers are found in just about any operating system in use today. So even XP is going to be able to recognize this, and even a Mac or an Apple can recognize it. So when you go in here and you pull this down and you see that it's using an AeroNet, it's not going to work. The AeroNet adapter is not going to work. Period. All right. So you've got to go to Bridge Adapter. You've got to push down the Advanced tab, and you have to select the PCNet-Fast3 adapter. It's a virtual adapter. It doesn't really exist except in memory, but that's fine. Now you go over here to your Windows XP box. Close this one out. I'm up in VirtualBox, so I go over to my virtual install of Windows XP, and I go into the network. And I go down here, and I'm going to use the same adapter. I'm going to tell it to virtualize this same adapter. Now they will both work because they can both see the hardware. Windows XP is not going to work with your AeroNet adapter. Forget it. But it will work with the PCNet. Okay. So make sure that we check the bridged adapter, and you're going to go down here to Advanced, and you're going to select the adapter type, and that's what's going to get you connected. Now once you do that, you come up and you're going to do an IP config on both machines. So you do an IP config on Linux, it's IF config. And what are you going to check? You're going to check the network portion and make sure that they both got the same network ID. If they don't have the same network ID, it's because you probably got one configured as bridge, the other one is NAT. But they both, for Mac users, it needs to be bridged networking. Now for VMware, it can be NAT. VMware can use NAT. That's not a problem. So if I go over here and I want to go to my settings for this Windows XP box here, and I go to the network adapter, I can use NAT if I'm using VMware. Alright, so that's fine. So that's the problem that people have with networking. They're not looking in the right place, and they're not doing their basic troubleshooting. You have to assume the physical layer when we talk about troubleshooting network connectivity. Always assume the physical layer, and that's going to be your adapters. So if the adapters aren't right, then it's not going to work. So what happens if you go up here and there's no IP address in Windows XP? That means that Windows XP could not virtualize the onboard adapter even in VMware. So if that's the case, then you have to go inside of your adapter and you have to find another one. Alright, so you just have to keep playing with the adapters until you find one. VMware and VirtualBox are not going to be able to virtualize every piece of hardware on your machine. It works great. It works much better, not great. It works much better with older hardware than it does with newer hardware. So if you go down and you get a new motherboard and a new CPU and all that fun stuff that comes on it, it may not be able to recognize or virtualize some of the hardware that's on your motherboard, such as the video or the network adapter or some of the controllers. Just the way it is. All right. But you can make it work. You're just going to have to play around with the network settings. But this is the troubleshooting right here. Confirm that you have an IP address. Confirm that the first 3 octets of the IP address are the same on both Kali and Windows XP. And if you do that, then you're halfway home. All right. Then all you have to do is then just be able to ping each other, and every lab will be successful. Alright, that's all I got for you. So if you have any questions or you need help troubleshooting your network connectivity, don't hesitate to contact your instructor. I'll talk with you later. Bye-bye.